Hi, this is Vanessa Love again. Hope that you're doing well. All right. Well, glad that you're watching more of these, I guess. Let's see. I had all sorts of things to talk about today, and then I just saw a Facebook post, and I said, oh my gosh, you know what? Really need to talk about this, and I think it's really important. All right. Over time, I've had different opinions about what it means to me in my life to be an art therapist. And when I was ready to go into the field, I had a lot of people who discouraged me, a lot of people who said, you're going to work in a mental hospital only, you're going to work with kids only, or you're going to work with autistic kids, and you should probably go to work with autistic kids because that's where the most money is. And I hated all of those things. And, I will explain a little bit more later, but, I didn't want that for myself. And, I set out to not have that be true for me. And, I don't want to say unfortunately, but, I did for the first 3 years work with teenagers with autistic kids, and I still do. And, in a mental hospital, that's the hospital that I talk about. And I just want to say that, yes, those are the places that you work early on in your career. And there are some people who will always work at those places, and that's where they've chosen to have their career. It has stability. Like you get your raises, you get your benefits, you go through it. And, as I said, when I first started out, people were very discouraging, and I just did not, I didn't want to hear it, and it's not that I was ever told, don't become an art therapist. I was just told, yeah, so you're probably just going to work at these places that you probably don't want to work in. And, I had very different ideas of what that meant. And, I think that still some of my teenage clients particularly will ask about my work at the hospital because they're interested in seeing if it's like what they think that it's like. And before I got into working at that hospital, I thought that it would be a very sterile environment, very no carpet, no comfort, very heavy locked doors, people screaming all the time. And let me think of how to describe it. I think the only thing that it's really compared to, and this sounds really bourgeoisie of me, or bougie, is when I was 15, I traveled with people to Europe, and we traveled around and we stayed in a youth hostel because everyone was on vacation in July, and that's their thing. They go on holiday, and you don't work at certain times of the year. So everyone was on holiday, so they couldn't find us enough places to have a host family, so we stayed in a hostel instead. And it was like it was like that. It was I would actually have to say that the hostel in Austria was probably not as nice as the hospital in Westport. And I'm trying to think it's. I haven't really been to a camping place, when you get sent off to camp or anything, but it wasn't the bunk beds or anything. There were there were 1 or 2 beds in a room. There were parts that had carpet. There were parts that didn't have carpet. The things though is that I didn't spend a lot of time in the rooms, and the bathrooms in the rooms had features to make it safe, because when you get sent to a hospital, it's because you aren't safe in the world in some way. So that can mean you were breaking down. It could mean that you had a psychotic break. It could mean that you were suicidal. It's a variety of things. And after a while at that particular hospital, there was a detox unit. I kind of got a little muddled because when you have the overflow from the psych unit going into the detox unit, people in the detox unit don't feel like they need to be there because they're not that crazy. It doesn't help morale either, but also, again, 70 beds, in this place. So if there's overflow, you put them where you can, because there's bound to be overflow in a very Westport is very close to the border of New York, so there is a lot of places where it's very, very crowded in that area. So there are people coming in and out a majority of the time. So let's see. So you're not feeling safe in some way. So covering the sprinkler heads, but still having the sprinkler heads. I know the kids always complained about having to continue, like, every 5 minutes the shower, like, you could shower, but the water would only go for 5 minutes, and then you'd have to, like, constantly touch this, like, knob on the shower, or like on the shower wall, and just, like, you'd have to just keep doing this and, like, making sure that you still had water. To my understanding, they didn't run out of hot water, so that's good. And let's see. Like, the dining area was just chairs and tables and a sink. In the, like, kids area, you might have some, like, artwork on the walls. Nothing really, that I can be like, oh, it was terrible or it was bad, but just, like, it wasn't home and it wasn't a hotel, but it was someplace temporary. And I think that's probably the best way to describe it. So, I do get a lot of questions about that. I actually have a lot of clients who, in private practice, worry that they're my worst, which I think is hilarious, because they're always the most, like, down to earth, like, really just tweaking a couple of things in their life, type of people. And I'm just, like, I just sit over here in my chair thinking, like, I worked with veterans who developed schizophrenia, like, not who developed schizophrenia, who had their schizophrenic break after, Vietnam or one of the wars. So you can only imagine that people in that type of mindset they don't have a consensus on reality. They definitely don't have my reality. So they're telling me stories, or they're telling me something, and it's probably not true, and I have to sit there and listen to them talk about something that doesn't make entire sense and probably didn't happen. And I can say, well, it's not really what my clients are like. They're not, in private practice, they're just not like that. There have been a couple of clients who have had psychosis, but overall they end up ending with me. I mean, it's one of those things. And I kind of wanted to share this video because share this in a video because I do want people to know that there's more to art therapy than just mental hospitals and kids. You get to choose what population you want to work with. If you want to work with breast cancer patients, if you want to work with veterans, if you want to work with kids in hospice care, or with terminal illness, you can. You can work in retirement homes. You can work in group homes. You can work almost everywhere that any other therapist has the option of working. If you want to work in the prisons, you can do that too. There's no one really stopping you from getting to those jobs. If there's ever a listing for a therapist in any of those places, apply. If you get the interview, or when you write your cover letter, explain, I am a therapist and I am going to have this, like, really awesome thing for you to use in your facility. And if the people are smart, they're gonna want you. They're gonna want you in their facility, because not only are you a therapist, you add an extra thing to it. So it's, it is one of those things where I'm like, oh my gosh, don't listen to other people, But over the last couple of months, I have felt frustrated with having a master's degree in art therapy, because it's not easy to go across state lines. I want to be in New York City. I want to be in New York. And everyone goes, oh, it's really tough to have your license in New York. It's really tough to have your LPC or your LMHC in New York and have your master's in art therapy. That's not going to happen. I have to become an LCAT, a licensed creative arts therapist, and that's not covered by insurance. Unless I'm missing something big here, I looked on the Psychology Today website for listings for New York City for art therapists, and there were 3 in private practice. What that tells me is that there are not many insurances that are willing to cover art therapy in New York. And I looked at the website for the Art Therapy Association of New York, and they said in there, you have to check with your insurance to see if they will cover these art therapy sessions. Okay, so maybe it's just wording for me, but, of course I'm a therapist. Of course I pay attention to these things. If it was likely that there were a lot of insurances that covered this service, then I would imagine that would be explained. Because that's exactly how I would say it. Listen, it might not be covered by your insurance, but most of the time it is, But this does not give me any hope. So what art therapists have to do, it seems like, and you can always correct me, is they have to go into facilities. Now, okay, that is fine for a lot of people, and actually, if you do go into a facility and work in one, I don't think the one in Westport counts. Actually, it might. It might not. So when you rack up this much debt for your degree, you want to, find the ways that will make it easier on you. And one of my classmates does work in Bridgeport at some nonprofit, and if she works there long enough, her student debt will be reduced or it will be diminished, because when you work in a facility that's specific for things and it's a nonprofit, they allow you to do that, which I think is wonderful. That's encouraging, because then you don't have to pay. I think my payment, if I didn't do the income-based repayment, mine is like $500 a month, just giving you an idea. And then just add that to what you think that a average priced 1-bedroom apartment would be, plus utilities. I mean, and then add utilities and cell phones and all of the other things that you need for an apartment. And you can understand why I might want to be paid what I'm worth. As you can tell from one of my other videos, if you haven't seen it yet, it was about how someone called me greedy through one of my clients, and it's just kind of, but when you're faced with all of this, and you don't really have very okay, I'm gonna have 40 hours, this is how much it's gonna be, you can get, you can be like, hey, I do a service, pay me money, so when I looked at what I could possibly be making at a facility in New York, it's not enough to cover the cost of living in New York. I might be able to be paid $40 an hour. I mean, of course, if I'm wrong in any of this, please let me know, because I definitely would like to know. But, it's kind of crazy how that is something, and how these people get their degrees and they want to save the world and they want to save so many people, and then they work in a facility, which is awesome, but they're not being paid as much as you can make in private practice. And what I tell people is, okay, let's say that private practice, I can tell you this is not really a general secret. Husky Insurance, which is the state insurance of Connecticut, they pay, I believe, $64 for a 45-minute session. Okay, so 45 minutes, you have 45-minute session, you get $60. Okay. So take that into consideration. Now, what some of the other Husky providers in my practice decide to do is work for an hour with Husky clients. And that pays, what does that pay? That pays $90 an hour? Yeah. So going from that, right, to being paid $30, $40 an hour, even though it's 40 hours a week, and you're paid when you're there and you're preparing for groups and you're preparing for, your one-on-ones, and, you have a lot of benefits of working in an agency, it doesn't really pan out for most people, like that's not what you want. It's just like when doctors go into private practice and they're able to, do a little bit more with insurances, and they're able to do a little bit more with their clients because someone out there is paying their full fee. And I don't mind telling you that the full fee for a first session with me currently, which is not always going to be the case, is $265. And the regular weekly sessions are $165. There are some insurances that pay this. So you can imagine that if I'm seeing someone for an hour and they're on the state insurance, and I'm seeing someone who may pay $60 up front, but the rest is covered by their insurance, that, I would want to have that instead of having this 40-hour work week, hopefully, dealing with other people, dealing with the agency regulations, dealing with the state regulations, and the ever-present, most agencies worry about JCO, which is the Joint Commissions on Hospitable Organizations or Hospital Organizations. They can come in and they inspect your records. I'm not a hospital right now. People can come in and inspect my records. Insurance companies can ask for my clients' medical records. But aside from that, no one sees my records. My records are for me. It does get very crazy with things. And, like working in an agency, you do have to worry about a lot of things. And, as these are going to go on, I'll explain more about how, these dynamics in other agencies where I've worked, just kind of like end up, I don't know how many, like I look at jobs sometimes and I'll go and look at reviews and then find that, people were complaining about the director, people were complaining about the high turnover rate, people were complaining about, the therapist there didn't give a shit. Well, yeah, when you're being paid that much and you're dealing with an incompetent boss, if you might have to, or an incompetent coworker, or just being regulated to death because, you didn't get your, note done within, 24 hours, like, of course, you're just going to be like, it actually doesn't matter what I do, come in, talk to me, whatever. I'm like, I'm going to be paid either way. That's unfortunate. That's how some people are, and it is very interesting how all of that happens. And as I said, I do have a different idea now of where I want to be professionally. And, I really would hate to say like art therapy isn't it, but there is a part of me that's just like, this is really frustrating. It's so frustrating. And, I know that once I got out of grad school, I was like, luckily I want to be in Connecticut because if I wanted to be anywhere else, this degree wouldn't work. But now that I do want to be in other places, and I'm realizing that I do want to be in other places, this degree doesn't work. I knew the limitations going in now, and there was no way 10 years ago to convince me against this, because this is what I was going to do. And when my life fell apart, and I can tell you this, like May of 2008, I still stuck out to be an art therapist. I was up against some odds. I'll talk about them later, but I was against some odds, and I still was like, you know what? You guys aren't going to prevent me from being an art therapist. I already moved across the country. I already gave up everything. If you want to be dicks about this, I'm still going to be an art therapist. I'm still going to be in your field. You cannot prevent this. And if I get my degree here, or if I get my degree somewhere else, I'm still going to have a degree in art therapy. That's where I was. Okay? Like, just, yeah. So, you know, like, I think sometimes having shattered dreams makes you a realist instead of, you know, makes you feel like, oh, you knew everything. No, you can't. No. There's limitations to everything you do. And that's the way that is. And you have to weigh out the pros and cons. And now, you know, I am considering going back to college or to get a master's in either social work or in marriage and family therapy. And actually, like, I get excited about that. Not because, like, I don't know a lot or anything, but because it's a different form. And I just find that learning about that now would be so cool. And I really do look forward to it, because I'm just like, oh my gosh, if I do this, then I can learn this. And like, I don't even know what I'd learn in those classes. Would it be something new completely? That sounds great. You know, so I really do like think about that stuff. Now, because I have my license, I can take classes, like I have to take classes for the continuing education so that I can keep my license. Now, a lot of these are mind-numbingly boring. And I'm not going to like say like, oh, you know, this particular one was boring, but you know, you have to eventually take a couple of ethics classes. You have to take like classes for post-traumatic stress disorder, even if that's not in Connecticut, even if that's not your, you know, like if you're working with autistic kids, why do you need to take this thing that's required, this PTSD thing? Yeah, it's just that, oh my God, there's a lot. And like these lists will come to me and they'll be like, oh, do you want to learn about, you know, keeping confidentiality in the workplace? No, I feel like I know that pretty well. And then they'll have other things that are like writing with your clients, or, you know, how to meditate. I am not going to a 2-hour workshop on how to meditate. It's not going to happen. Like, could you like teach me another theory? Could you, and they do have those too, but here's the issue. They don't take account that people are in private practice and that they may not be able to take a whole Thursday off. Now, when you work in an agency, of course you can do that. Your agency will pay that, you know, $200, $150 fee for you to go. But that's not what I get. So I'd rather do my stuff online, or like I find ones that do offer, you know, weekend stuff. I actually do go to the Expressive Therapy Summit in New York City and get my classes done in a weekend, but it is very expensive. You know, I'd rather sometimes not, because, you know, it does become disheartening to be like, well, I have to do this. I have to get 15 credits for the year. Here's $500 so that I can go network with a bunch of people on a weekend. Yay. You know, I actually don't think it's that expensive. It might be $300. I can't remember. But like, you know, if I do like online, or if I do correspondence classes, they tend to be like $45, $100 sometimes for those classes. So like sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. As far as like getting, you know, the 15 units, I know one year I got 24 units and I was still interested in like other classes. You know, it's like, oh yeah, those were all great, but you know what? There's these other classes too, and I want to try them too. So, you know, like I really do try sometimes to like get some classes in there and get the ones that I actually want. As I said, there's a lot where I'm just like, I already know that, or I'm not interested. Things that happen. Anyway, well, I hope that this was informative for you, maybe like inspiring for some of the art therapists, the potential art therapists out there. I do have a tab on my webpage, lovescounseling.com, that says, you know, the questions of a potential art therapist or from an art therapy student. it does answer some things about art therapy, and this, is hopefully elaborated on that. All right, well, thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great day.